The first silver wound thread tore itself out of a royal bandage, while Wolf Prince Dacian Thornmere was still dismissing the nurse, who had sewn his battle wounds closed. It did not fly. It did not speak. It only slid free from the soldier's arm, bright as moonlit wire, and pulled across the blood-washed floor toward the curse-depth strip hanging from Milena Wraith's grey apron. The Thornmere War Infirmary fell silent. Milena stood between two rows of wounded wolves, with her needle case locked under Royal Surgeon Corbin Hask's seal, and her hands held open so no one could accuse them of hiding anything. The thread stopped, where every curse depth she had treated was measured by wound, wash, and silver tension. Corbin lifted the contaminated stitch vial before the prince. Poison residue was found among her thread preparations. Curse residue is not poison, Milena said. Convenient. From the woman who alone handled the threads. The wound ledger shows which threads were silver, washed, curse, bound, and blood, cautioned. The stitch tray assignments show who touched them after each shift. Corbin's face remained calm. Her private ledger, the infirmary ledger, she answered. Dacian stood beneath the black wolf banners in torn mail, one shoulder still carrying the old scar she had once sewn from collarbone to heart. His wolf shadow moved behind him. He had trusted her hands once, when the frost curse had crawled toward his heart after Vera Pass. Milena had kept him alive through 3 nights of silver fever, cutting dead thread, drawing out black heat, stitching containment across flesh that should have stopped beating before dawn. Now he looked at her as if care could become treason, because a royal surgeon had named it so. Open the wound records, she said. Stitch tray assignments, silver wash receipts, curse, residue disposal, treatment schedule. Corbin closed his fingers over the ledger. Those records are restricted under campaign authority. The final battle begins before nightfall. We cannot risk infected practice spreading through the royal line. Milena looked at Dacian. Then he has accused me with records I cannot answer. His gaze dropped to her hands. Those hands had sewn common soldiers before nobles, fevered scouts before commanders, and a nameless boy before a lord. That had made her difficult, long before Corbin made her dangerous. You will surrender all thread, needles, washers, and patient access, Dacian said. Milena did not beg. She untied the nurse's cord from her wrist. It held a bone needle, a silver measuring loop, and the dark curse-depth strip now pulling the thread's attention like a matched treatment mark. Dacian's eyes moved to the strip. He knew one of those marks belonged to him. Corbin held out his palm. The cord. Milena did not give it to Corbin. She laid it on the treatment table between them. This cord belongs to containment work, not court suspicion. Dacian's voice was low. Release it. He had survived because she once refused to make his wound look clean before it was safe. Now, he was punishing the same discipline in front of men who needed it, so she released it. The old scar beneath his collar twitched. Only once. He touched it before he could stop himself. Milena saw the motion and felt something inside her go still. The body remembers what pride forgets. Dacian did not soften. Milena Wraith is removed from Thornmere War Infirmary pending surgical inquiry. Her treated soldiers will be re-examined by Royal Surgeon Hask before deployment. Corbin bowed. That is the safest course. No, Milena said. It is the fastest. The wounded soldier, whose thread had pulled free, made a low sound as heat gathered beneath the reopened seam. Corbin stepped toward him with a vial of pale green wash. Milena's head snapped up. Do not put that on an open curse wound. Corbin's voice sharpened. You are dismissed. That wash seals heat inward. It is approved for ordinary fever. The vial did not prove malice. It proved only that the wash category and the wound category did not belong on the same skin. Dacian looked between them. Corbin held the vial steady. Prince, She seeks to frighten the room into keeping her authority. Milena did not move toward the soldier. She could not. 2 guards stood at her sides. Do not ask him to defend me. He is already injured. Ask the records why his seam is carrying the wrong heat. The silver thread beside her cursed depth strip tightened. Across the room, 2 other bandages trembled. Not every wound, not every soldier. Only 3 stitches drawn from recent campaign patients whose rewash entries appeared after Milena's shifts ended. The threads pulled 1 finger width toward the matching marks and stopped. They did not spell a name. They did not accuse Corbin. They did not clear Milena. The silver wound threads rejected false healing. They did not love Milena or remember loyalty. They tightened only when a wash-trapped curse heat beneath a seam meant to vent. Milena forced her voice low enough to carry. Those wounds should not enter battle until the records answer. Corbin said, "Those 3 men are scheduled for royal advance. Then one must be opened now, under witness, before the others are sent forward on sealed skin." Dacian hated uncertainty. Worse, he hated that it came from the woman he had just stripped of authority. "Open 1 wound under witness," he said. "The other 2 remain sealed until the records answer. If she lies, chain her before the campaign horns." Corbin's smile returned, thin and controlled. "As my prince commands." Milena was not restored. Her cord remained on the table. Her ledger remained under seal. Her name remained under suspicion. That mattered more than the thread. A thread could warn. Only the ledger could show who had changed the wound's care. 1 soldier was laid beneath witness lamps. When the approved green wash touched the first reopened seam, the black veins beneath the skin darkened and pulled inward, as if the heat had been sealed in the wrong direction. The silver thread beside Milena's curse depth strip tightened toward the sealed wash tag, tied to the wound record chest. Not enough to name a hand, only enough to demand the batch be opened. Milena lifted her eyes to Dacian. "Your Highness," she said, "those 3 advance wounds are not carrying poison from my stitches." The thread shivered once beside the tag. The tag carried no confession, only a batch number, and the batch number was enough to make the next lie harder. "They are carrying sealed curse beneath skin that your records have not yet answered for." The sealed wash tag carried no confession, only a batch number, and the batch number had been logged after Milena's hands were already barred from the trays. That mattered because poison needed intent, but custody needed only a door left open. Wolf Prince Dacian Thornmere ordered the wound ledger, wash batch log, stitch tray assignment, treatment schedule, silver wash receipts, and curse residue disposal roll brought forward. He did not return Milena's nurse cord. He did not unseal her ledger for her hands. Her needle case remained locked under Royal Surgeon Corbin Hask's seal, and her name remained marked, pending surgical inquiry. Her standing widened only to record comparison. She could identify thread codes, wash categories, curse depth marks, and shift times. She could not resume treatment, accuse Corbin, or claim the 3 trembling wounds proved every campaign seam was wrong. Corbin made that limit enter the room. 1 batch mismatch does not make treason false. "No," Milena said. "It shows whether the wound was changed after I was removed from its care." The wound ledger was opened by a bone clerk, not by Milena. Its pages carried columns: soldier name, wound depth, thread tension, wash type, venting hour, seal hour, rewash entry. 3 names were marked for royal advance. All 3 had been sewn during Milena's last night shift. All 3 had been assigned silver vent thread, not closure thread. All 3 had rewash entries after dawn, when her tray had already been surrendered to the locked rack. Dacian's eyes moved to the time marks. Who logged the rewash? The clerk read carefully. Mark, treatment office correction. Corbin did not flinch. Treatment office, Mark. My station approves post-shift corrections. That does not mean my hand touched the wound. Milena nodded once. That is true. The admission made captains look at her strangely. She would not claw at any name offered to her. If records were going to save soldiers, they had to be stronger than revenge. The wash batch log came next. Green wash batch 17. Ordinary fever, swelling reduction, closed, skin heat draw. Not for open curse seams. Not for silver vent thread. Not for wounds. Still breathing black heat beneath the skin. The approved green wash had not been poison. It was dangerous because it was wrong. Dacian looked at her. If it is not poison, why was your thread residue classified that way? The curse residue disposal roll answered before Corbin could. Silver wound thread residue, curse-bound, blackened at removal, requires ash brine and moon salt. Improper storage may resemble venom bloom under court test. The stitch vial Corbin had presented was marked venom suspect because curse residue had been stored in a poison test drawer, not the disposal urn. The record did not show who moved it. That was worse than a bad name. A bad name could be questioned. A broken handoff could swallow every question after it. It showed only that curse waste from Milena's work had been treated as poison evidence after disposal custody broke. Corbin's voice stayed smooth. Improper storage is precisely why she was removed, Milena answered. Improper storage after my tray closed is why the storage log matters. The stitch tray assignment showed her tray sealed at third bell before dawn, witnessed by 2 junior nurses, transferred to central rack, then retrieved at fifth bell for royal advance recheck. Retrieved by treatment office custody. Not by Milena. Not by Corbin personally. A gap wide enough for error, and narrow enough for a guilty hand to hide inside if there was one. Who opened the tray at fifth bell? Dacian asked. The junior clerk swallowed. Station aide, Bram Vale. Under treatment. Office order. Where is he? Corbin's eyes lowered a fraction. Sent to the outer wound tents after the accusation. Dacian turned toward the guards. Find him alive. I want custody answered before rumor reaches the tents. Still no apology. Still no cord. But the first order that reached beyond Milena's disgrace. The silver wash receipts were carried in a lacquered box. Milena had signed out 6 vials of true silver wash for venting curse seams. 5 were returned empty by correct patient code. 1 vial was marked transferred to Royal Reserve due to contamination concern. The transfer time matched the rewash entries. The Royal Reserve receipt bore no patient name, only a tray code. Dacian's old scar throbbed beneath his torn collar. Do not use that scar as proof, Milena said softly. It is memory, not evidence. Dacian's frost curse treatment from Vare Pass had used the same thread category as the 3 advanced soldiers. Silver, vent, not closure. Milena had refused green wash on his seam until black heat stopped rising. The old case did not make Milena innocent. It made Corbin's poison label too narrow to survive without the full disposal chain. Corbin said, an old royal case cannot govern every battlefield wound. No, Milena said. But it can show why the category matters. The treatment schedule exposed the final limit of the day. The 3 advanced soldiers had been moved from observation to deployment by campaign urgency order. The rewash was logged as preparation for armor seal. Armor seal required closed skin. Silver vent thread required breathing skin. Someone had prepared them to look ready before they were safe. Mixed evidence held the room in place. The records did not prove malice. They did not prove Corbin ordered harm. They did not prove Bram Vale guilty. They did not prove Milena clear. They proved Milena's question had been necessary before dismissal. Dacian looked at the open soldier. Can he march? Milena's throat tightened. Not unless you want his curse to reach the lungs before moonrise, Corbin said. She is still under inquiry. Then answer without touching him, Dacian ordered. Another smaller permission. Milena gave the venting instructions to the junior nurses. Cut only the dead tension. Leave the silver line breathing. Use ash brine, not greenwash. Record every hand. The silver thread beside her curse depth strip loosened by 1 careful inch when the nurses obeyed. The room watched the wound answer treatment, not allegiance, not gratitude, not loyalty. Only a wound category, returning to its proper treatment. Then the guards returned, without the station aide. Bram Vale was not in the outer tents, and no one could say who had ordered him there. Under his stripped cot lay a sealed Royal Reserve receipt, marked with Dacian's old Frost Curse thread code, referenced beside one of the 3 advanced tray codes, before Milena saw the list. That did not prove Bram Vale had betrayed anyone. It proved the next record had a living witness missing from it. Bram Vale had not vanished from the infirmary. He had been moved through an order no one wanted to read aloud. The order had been left beneath his stripped cot, folded into the Royal Reserve receipt, like a smaller wound hidden under cleaner bandage. Milena Wraith did not reach for it. Her nurse cord still lay on the treatment table. Her ledger remained sealed. Her needle case remained under Royal Surgeon Corbin Hask's lock. Wolf Prince Dacian Thornmere opened 1 limited chain. Treatment Office Order. 5th. Bell Custody. Royal Reserve Receipt Origin. Poison. Test Drawer Access. Archive Code Copy. And Accusation Certification. He did not apologize. He did not restore her patient authority. Dacian gave the order like command, not apology. A missing aide threatened the campaign first. Her standing widened only to custody route review. She could compare times, marks, keys, tray codes, and treatment categories. She could not accuse Corbin, clear Bram Vale, resume sewing, or claim 1 missing aide proved the poison charge false. Corbin made the limit clean. An absent aide does not become innocence for an accused nurse. No, Milena said. It becomes a record with a missing witness. The treatment office order had been entered half an hour after Milena's tray was sealed at 3rd bell. Subject: Royal Advance Recheck. Action: Retrieve silver vent tray group. Inspect for contamination. Prepare armor. Seal readiness. Transferide. Bram Vale. Authority: Treatment Office Standing Seal. Not Corbin's hand. Not Milena's. The standing seal belonged to the Royal Surgeon's station, but clerks, registrars, and senior aides could route corrections beneath it during campaign emergency. Dacian looked at Corbin. Did you issue this order? Corbin answered without haste. No, my station did. That is what standing authority is for during battle preparation. Who entered it? The bone clerk swallowed. Night Registrar's line is blank, Majesty. The order was copied from the correction board. A correction board could save lives when wounds changed quickly. It could also move responsibility faster than truth. The 5th bell custody slip came next. Bram Vale had opened the central rack with a treatment office key and removed 1 silver vent tray group. 2 junior nurses were listed as nearby, not witnessing. The witness line had been left empty because the retrieval was marked urgent. Milena's face stayed still. Urgent trays still require a second hand if the wound is curse-bound. Corbin said, unless campaign schedule overrides ordinary practice, then the override should be named. No one found the override. The Royal Reserve receipt had been created before the accusation, not after. Before Corbin presented the contaminated vial, before Milena surrendered her cord, before the first silver thread tore free, the receipt marked 1 silver wash vial transferred from Milena's tray group to Royal Reserve under contamination concern. Beside the transfer was the Frost Curse code from Dacian's old treatment. Vare Pass, Royal Seam, Silver vent category. Dacian's hand went still against the table. Who had access to that code? The archive copy roll answered. Royal Scar Archive. Access permitted to Royal Surgeon, War Infirmary Registrar, and Prince's Command Physician. Milena's treatment notes were stored there because the wound belonged to Dacian, not because she owned the record. The code had been copied 3 days earlier for campaign comparison. Requester. Treatment Office. Purpose. Royal Curse. Seam standardization. Corbin's voice remained even. A prince's successful treatment may guide battlefield standards. Milena looked at the opened soldier. Then why was the standard used to justify armor seal instead of venting? The record did not answer. That was its danger. The poison test drawer access log was brought in under black wax. Only 4 keys could open it. Royal Surgeon, War Infirmary Registrar, Senior Apothecary, and Treatment Office Emergency Key. Milena's disposal urn key was separate. Her nurse cord never opened the poison drawer. The drawer had been opened twice. Once at 4th bell, after her tray was sealed. Once at 6th bell, shortly before Corbin certified the poison accusation. The 4th bell entry carried only the emergency key mark. The mark did not carry a name. It carried a permission too broad for a room full of wounded men. The 6th bell entry carried Corbin's certification mark. Dacian's eyes lifted. You opened it at 6th bell to inspect the submitted vial, Corbin said. That is my duty. Did you open it at 4th? No. The answer was clean enough to stand and narrow enough to hide. Nothing by itself. The disposal roll was read beside the poison test summary. Full disposal roll. Curse-bound silver residue removed from 2 open seams. Sealed in ash brine urn. Moon salt tally correct. Disposal witness pending because night shift ended early for campaign muster. Poison test summary. Blackened silver thread with venom bloom. Source suspected Milena Wraith tray. Immediate containment recommended. The summary had not included the ash brine urn, moon salt, or broken witness line. Corbin had certified from the summary, not the disposal chain. That was sufficient for immediate removal, he said. Not conviction. Milena's throat tightened, but she kept her voice level. A removal, spoken, before captains, becomes conviction, before records can breathe. Dacian looked toward the soldiers who had heard him dismiss her. He still did not apologize. He still did not return the cord. Open the correction board, he ordered. Not the full surgeon's office. Another smaller answer. The correction board was carried from the treatment desk. Chalk marks smeared by hurried sleeves. 3 lines mattered. Advance tray group to reserve inspection. Apply green wash before armor seal if swelling persists. Hold Wraith ledger under poison review. No signature. Only a treatment office routing mark. The silver wound thread near Milena's strip did not move toward the board. It did not know handwriting. It did not know law. It only lay slack beside the soldier whose heat had begun to vent correctly. The room had to read what magic could not. At the bottom of the board, half erased under ash dust, was one earlier instruction. Send Bramvale to outer tents after reserve transfer. Hold public inquiry pending Prince's command review. That did not prove Bram guilty. It did not prove Corbin ordered the transfer. It proved Bram had been moved before he could be asked why he opened Milena's tray. Then a guard entered, rain on his cloak and fear in his mouth. Bramvale had been found behind the old apothecary stair, alive, unconscious, 2 fingers silver burned, and 1 torn edge of disposal urn wax stuck to his sleeve. The wax did not prove Milena had touched him. It proved only that someone had brought Bram close enough to the disposal urn to make his hands part of the next lie. Bramvale could not answer who moved him, but his burned fingers could say which locked room he had touched before he fell. He lay on a narrow infirmary pallet behind the old apothecary's stair, breathing shallowly beneath a wool blanket, while 2 guards held back every nurse except the senior pulse reader. Milena Wraith stood 10 paces away with her hands empty. Her nurse cord still lay on the treatment table. Her ledger remained sealed. Her needle case remained locked under Royal Surgeon Corbin Hask's authority. Wolf Prince Dacian Thornmere opened one limited chain. Emergency key custody, Bram's movement route, disposal, urn wax timing, poison drawer access, correction board routing, and Royal Scar archive request. He did not apologize. He did not restore her authority. Her standing widened only to custody interpretation. She could read wax types, tray routes, thread burns, and treatment marks. She could not touch Bram, accuse Corbin, clear herself, or claim the unconscious aid was proof of deliberate harm. Corbin made that limit sound necessary. A wounded aide cannot become a courtroom. No, Milena said. But his route can become a record. The emergency key box was brought from the treatment office under 2 seals. 4 keys hung inside. 1 for the central rack, 1 for the poison test drawer, 1 for the reserve wash cabinet, and 1 for the correction board lock. The 4th bell poison drawer entry carried the emergency key mark. The key sign-out slip carried no name, only a routing stamp. Treatment office night correction. Dacian's gaze hardened. Who keeps the emergency key? The war infirmary registrar bowed. The key remains in the box. It is signed out by stamp during campaign hours when the registrar's desk is overloaded. Overloaded enough to open poison evidence without a name? No one answered. Milena did not fill the silence with accusation. A broad key can save a dying man. It can also make every hand look like no hand. The route slate showed Bram's movement after 5th bell. Central rack, reserve wash cabinet, disposal corridor, poison test drawer, old apothecary stair. He should never have gone from the silver vent tray to the disposal corridor unless he carried residue or a disposal request. No such request had been logged under his name. Corbin said, "Aides often carry what clerks forget to record." Milena looked toward Bram's burned fingers. Silver burns do not come from carrying paper. The pulse reader lifted Bram's hand under lamplight. 2 fingertips were marked with thin crescent burns, the kind silver thread left when curse residue was still active. Beneath one nail clung a torn edge of disposal urn wax. The wax reader scraped a grain and tested it against the urn seal. Same ash brine, same moonsalt, same dark beeswax. The timing remained uncertain. It could have caught on his sleeve while he handled the urn. It could have been pressed there after he fell. It did not prove Milena had touched him. It did not prove Bram had stolen anything. It proved he had been close enough to the disposal chain for the poison story to borrow his hands. Dacian turned to the registrar. Was the disposal urn opened at 4th bell? The disposal log answered. Urn seal checked at 3rd bell by Milena's shift, intact. Rechecked at 6th bell after poison. Test summary, broken witness line noted. No 4th bell disposal entry. The poison drawer had opened when the urn had no recorded reason to open. That was not a confession. It was a gap, with blood on both sides. The correction board was carried closer to the lamps. Chalk dust clung to its lower edge. The line that moved Bram had been written in the angular hand of a routing clerk, not Corbin's neat surgical script. The clerk was named Joran Voss. He was present. He was trembling. Dacian looked at him. "Did you write the transfer?" "Yes, Majesty." "From whose instruction?" Joran swallowed. "From a treatment slip placed in the board slot." "Signed?" "Stamped." The slip had been burned in the correction stove after copying, as routine boards were cleared every 6 hours. The ashtray still held fragments. Milena closed her eyes once. Routine can destroy what guilt would have burned. Corbyn's voice sharpened. Or what urgency had no reason to preserve. That is true, she said again. Dacian's jaw tightened. He hated when she gave fairness to the very procedure being used against her. The routing stamp on Joran's copied line matched the same mark on the emergency keyslip. Treatment Office Night Correction. The stamp belonged to no person. It belonged to a desk. The Royal Scar Archive request came last. 3 days before the accusation, Dacian's old frost-cursed treatment code had been requested under campaign standardization. The request line named a role, not a hand. Prince's command, physician. Corbyn lifted his chin. That role is mine during active campaign. The room shifted. Milena did not seize it. Then the request was authorized under your office, she said. That does not prove how it was used. Dacian looked at her, and something dangerous passed behind his eyes. Not softness, but recognition of restraint. The archive copy had included her old note from Vare Pass. Silver vent thread must breathe until black heat clears. Do not armor seal. Do not greenwash. The copied standard had lost the last 2 lines. Only the thread code remained. Silver vent. Royal grade. That was how a treatment became a label without its warning. Corbyn said, condensed standards are common. Milena answered, so are graves. The accusation certification was read again. Corbyn had certified immediate removal from the poison test summary at 6th bell before the full disposal roll was placed beside him. The full roll existed, but had not been attached to his summary packet. He had certified urgency from partial evidence. Dacian had dismissed her from that urgency. The records did not prove Corbyn created the partial packet. They did not prove Joran knew what he copied. They did not prove Bram opened the drawer willingly. They proved the accusation reached the prince faster than the chain that could complicate it. Bram stirred once. Every head turned. Milena did not move toward him. The pulse reader whispered, he cannot speak yet. In Bram's clenched left hand, hidden under the blanket, was a splinter of black lacquered drawer wood, the poison test drawer, and on that splinter, under silver burn, was half a stamped word from the missing treatment slip. Advance. The half-stamped word on the drawer splinter did not name a hand. It proved only that the missing treatment slip had reached the poison test drawer before the room tried to make Bram Vale look like an accident. Advance. Milena Wraith heard the word as a battlefield command, but in an infirmary, it meant something colder. Advance meant a soldier was to be made ready for armor, horn, and wolf-line movement before the moon changed. Advance meant skin closed, fever lowered, records shortened, and hesitation treated like cowardice. Her nurse cord still lay on the treatment table. Her ledger remained sealed. The opened soldier still breathed beneath witness lamps, while junior nurses obeyed her instructions without being allowed to call them hers. Wolf Prince Dacian Thornmere opened one limited chain. Missing treatment slip fragments, advance readiness classification, poison drawer damage, stamp custody, ash stove remnants, and command physician review. He did not apologize. He did not restore her authority. Her standing widened, only to slip-root comparison. She could read wound categories, stamp impressions, ash fragments, and tray classifications. She could not touch Bram, accuse Corbyn Hask, declare the poison charge false, or claim the black lacquered splinter proved who moved the drawer. Corbyn made that boundary immediate. A broken drawer does not clear a contaminated tray. No, Milena said. It tells us which record was broken before the tray became evidence. The drawer wood was placed beside the correction board. The stamped half-word matched the advance readiness stamp used on campaign treatment slips. Not royal command. Not surgeon signature. A routing category. The ash stove fragments were sifted under lamplight. Most were black powder. 2 pieces survived. One red, Apply green wash before armor seal if swelling persists. The other read, Silver Vent Tray Group, Royal Grade Standard. The two instructions did not belong together without a warning line between them. Dacian's old Ver Pass record had carried that warning once. Do not armor seal until black heat clears. The copied advance slip did not. Corbin looked at the fragments with a surgeon's discipline, not panic. Condensed slips omit old notes when urgency requires action. Milena answered. Then, urgency cut away the part that kept men alive. The advance readiness ledger showed who was scheduled for the final campaign horn. 3 soldiers from Milena's last shift had been moved from observation to armor seal. Beside their names stood one mark: Royal, Grade, Silver Vent, Approved. Not Milena's initials. Not Corbin's hand. Treatment Office Night Correction. The same stamp that opened the emergency key. The same stamp that moved Bram. The same stamp that placed his name where a witness should have been. The stamp custody box was brought from the registrar's desk. 6 routing stamps lay inside. 5 rested in their slots. 1, Night Correction, had a smear of ash brine under its handle. The registrar went pale. It should not leave the board desk. Dacian's voice was quiet. Who signed it out? No sign out, Majesty. Stamps remain at desk. Milena looked at Bram's burned fingers. Then Bram either carried the slip to the stamp, or someone brought the stamp to the root. The record did not choose between those possibilities. That was the cruelty of good procedure used badly. It left just enough room for everyone to deny standing in the doorway. The poison drawer damage was read next. The lock had not been forced. The side lip had splintered from inside pressure, as if someone had shut the drawer on something too thick and pulled it open again. The splinter in Bram's fist matched the broken inner lip. Corbin said, An aide tampering with evidence may injure himself. Milena did not defend Bram by making a different certainty. Or an aide told to carry evidence may panic when the wrong drawer burns his fingers. Dacian looked at her. Why would silver burn him? Curse-bound residue burns ungloved skin when it is still active, she said. Dead thread does not. Poison residue does not. The burn means whatever touched him had not been properly drowned in ash brine. The disposal urn log was placed beside the drawer damage. 3rd bell. Milena sealed 2 curse-bound residues in ash brine. Moon salt correct. Urn intact. 4th bell. No disposal entry. 6th bell. Urn seal found disturbed. Poison test vial submitted. Between those times, active residue had left the urn path and reached the poison drawer. Not proof of malice. Proof of category. Rupture. The command physician review was unrolled last. Corbin's campaign title stood at the top, but the summary was prepared by the treatment office. It recommended temporary removal of Milena Wraith pending poison clarification because Royal Grade Silver Thread showed venom bloom reaction. Attached evidence listed poison, test summary, advance slip, contaminated vial. Not attached. Full disposal roll, silver wash receipts, witness, gap note, Ver Pass warning lines. Corbin had certified that removal was prudent. Dacian had acted on that certification. The room knew it before either man said a word. Milena looked at the prince, not to soften him, but to keep him inside the record. You were given a summary that made me dangerous faster than it made the wounds explainable. His face tightened. Still no apology. Still no cord. Open the advance classification packet, he said. Not the full surgeon's trial. Another smaller answer. The packet showed the 3 soldiers had not been classified together at first. 2 were marked observation. 1 was marked advance. After the night correction stamp, all 3 became advance ready under Royal Grade Thread standard. The reclassification time matched the 4th bell emergency key. The opened soldier groaned as the black heat finally vented through the breathing seam. The silver thread near Milena's cursed depth strip loosened again. The room watched treatment answer, not allegiance. Then the second sealed soldier, still waiting in his cot, began to cough black frost into his bandage. Not from Milena's touch, not from thread magic, from a wound that had been made ready for armor before it was ready for breath. The second soldier's cough turned the witness lamps blue before anyone dared cut his bandage. Black frost spread through the linen from the inside, thin at first, then blooming like winter across a sealed window. The soldier's wolf tried to rise beneath his skin and failed, trapped under a seam prepared for armor rather than breath. Milena Wraith took one step forward. 2 guards moved with her. She stopped before either hand touched her arm. Her nurse cord still lay on the table. Her needle case remained locked. Her ledger remained sealed. The first soldier lived only because junior nurses were obeying instructions the prince had not yet allowed her to perform with her own hands. Dacian Thornmere looked from the coughing man to the advance classification packet. "Open the second wound under witness," he said. Corbin Hask turned sharply. "Prince, she remains under poison inquiry. She will not touch him." The words struck Milena with less cruelty than the first dismissal, and that almost made them worse. He had begun to believe her method, while still refusing her authority. Her standing widened only to emergency category review. She could identify what the wound needed, compare the classification packet, read the missing warning lines, and instruct licensed nurses. She could not resume sewing, reclaim her cord, accuse Corbin, or declare the poison charge false because one more seam failed. Corbin made the boundary colder. "A crisis proves urgency, not conspiracy." "No," Milena said. "It proves whether urgency chose the right wound category." The second soldier was laid beside the first. His name was Arlen Reese, Moon Scout, left flank, curse / beneath the ribs. Milena knew the seam without touching it. She had marked it silver vent, shallow to deep, open until black heat cleared by second bell after moonrise. The advance packet had changed that. Arlen Reese, armor seal approved. Green wash if swelling persists. Royal, grade thread standard. No warning line, no venting hour, no moonrise check. The junior nurse, hands trembling, cut the outer linen. Black frost breathed out. Not blood, not rot. Trapped curse heat, forced cold by the wrong seal. Milena kept her voice steady. "Do not pull the thread. Cut only the armor seal. Leave the silver line breathing. Ash brine at the edge, not the center." The nurse obeyed. The silver wound thread beside Milena's curse depth strip tightened once, then loosened as the frost thinned. Not gratitude, not loyalty, only a seam returning to the treatment category it should never have left. The room watched another wound answer care rather than accusation. Dacian's old scar twitched under his collar. He pressed his hand flat against it, not as proof, but as if his body had become an unwanted witness to the difference between sealed skin and safe skin. Milena did not look at the scar this time. The archive copy chain was opened. The original Vea Pass treatment record carried 4 lines under silver vent royal grade thread. Keep seam breathing. Do not armor seal until black heat clears. No green fever wash on open curse line. Record. Every hand after night shift. The campaign standard copy carried only 1. Royal grade silver vent thread, approved for battlefield curse seams. The missing lines had not vanished from Milena's old note. They had been omitted when the archive copied the royal treatment into campaign shorthand. Dacian's voice went low. "Who approved the shorthand?" The archive clerk read the routing. Requested by treatment office. Reviewed by command physician station. Copied by registrar staff. Approved for advance readiness board. Rolls again. Offices again. No hand. Corbin said, "Condensed standards prevent clerks from drowning in old cases while men bleed." Milena answered, "Then do not use old cases after cutting away the part that made them safe." The command physician's seal sat beside the copy review. Corbin's office seal, not his written order, not his personal correction. Enough to hold the distinction mattered. Milena let it matter. Dacian looked at her, and the look carried something sharper than remorse. He was beginning to understand that her restraint was not mercy for Corbin. It was loyalty to the wounded, because a weak accusation could collapse before the soldiers were safe. The third sealed soldier began to shake, but did not cough. Milena pointed without moving. "Do not open him yet. Read his venting hour." The classification packet showed his original wound was different. Not rib frost, not deep curse slash, but a shoulder bite with residue near the muscle. Silver, vent, was correct. Green wash was not. Armor seal might be safe after the second moon check. His reclassification had been earlier than the others. Not the same pattern. Not proof that all three were handled alike. The records had to stay precise, or they would become another kind of false healing. The treatment schedule showed why the shortcuts had gathered. Final campaign horn had been moved up by Prince's War Council order. Wounded advance ranks had to be cleared by moonrise. Treatment office converted observation wounds into armor-ready cases to meet the schedule. Dacian had signed the campaign acceleration. He had not ordered wrong wash. He had not ordered Milena framed, but his urgency had made the wrong summary powerful. For the first time, no one needed Milena to say it. Corbin did. Majesty, without acceleration the eastern line may break. Dacian did not look away from Arlen's frost-blackened bandage. And with false readiness, it breaks from inside our own armor. Still no apology. Still no cord. Suspend only the 3 advance wounds from deployment, he ordered. Open the archive shorthand source, not the full campaign delay. Another smaller answer. The shorthand source was pulled from the registrar's copy shelf. Between the original Vair Pass record and the campaign board copy lay a draft page with the missing warnings bracketed, not erased. Beside the brackets, someone had written, "Too restrictive for advance use. Remove nurse caution language." The note carried no signature, only the same treatment office night correction stamp that had opened the key, moved Bram, and turned wounds into readiness. Then, from behind the apothecary stair, Bram Vale woke screaming one word through cracked lips. "Needle case." "Needle case," left Bram Vale's mouth like a word dragged across broken glass. Then he choked, and the pulse reader pressed him back before the room could turn his pain into a trial. Milena Wraith did not move toward him. Her nurse cord still lay where Dacian had ordered her to release it. Her ledger remained sealed. The needle case Bram had named sat under Corbin Hask's lock, its black, iron corners catching the witness lamps like a small coffin for the hands that had kept men alive. Wolf Prince Dacian Thornmere opened one limited chain, needle case seal, lock wax, instrument inventory, Bram's movement record, correction, board stamp use, and poison evidence sheet. He did not apologize. He did not restore her authority. Her standing widened only to instrument custody review. She could identify tools, thread grooves, seal types, and missing pieces. She could not touch the case, treat Bram, accuse Corbin, clear herself, or claim a wounded aide's one word, proved the poison charge false. Corbin made the boundary immediate. A delirious aide naming the accused nurse's property proves nothing. "No," Milena said. "It proves the property should be opened before someone uses it for him." Dacian's gaze flicked to her. "For him? For the next story," she answered. "A missing witness is easiest to dress with a guilty object." The needle case was placed beneath the lamps. Its outer seal bore Corbin's surgical mark from the moment he locked it, after Dacian dismissed her. That seal was intact. Corbin's composure steadied. No one opened it after seizure. Milena looked at the hinge. Open the inner latch record. The case had 2 locks. The outer one held the whole box. The inner latch protected the curse instruments. Silver measuring loop, venting needle, blood, caution needle, ash, brine hook, and thread tension comb. The inner wax was not intact. It had been warmed, pressed back, and cooled unevenly, leaving 2 impressions. Milena's old nurse mark beneath, and above it, a blurred edge of treatment. Office wax. The record did not show who opened it. It showed only that the curse instrument latch had been disturbed after her cord left her wrist. Corbin leaned closer. That could have happened during inspection. Then the inspection should be logged, Milena said. No inspection log existed. The instrument inventory was read by a junior nurse whose voice shook. Silver measuring loop. Present. Ash brine hook. Present. Thread tension comb. Present. Bone needle. Present. Blood caution needle. Absent. The room changed around the missing word. Blood caution was not ordinary healing. It was the last resort used only when a curse moved too close to the heart, and silver alone could not convince the body to fight from within. Dacian's scar tightened beneath his collar. Milena saw it, and spoke before anyone else could. Do not use his scar as proof. Corbin's eyes narrowed. Then explain why the most dangerous instrument in your case is missing. I can explain what it does, not who took it after you sealed my case. The distinction held. Barely. Brams stirred again, breath snagging. The pulse reader bent close, but his lips only shaped pieces, not tray. The room froze. Needle case. Stare. Wax. Then pain dragged him under again. No name. No confession. No clean rescue for Milena. Dacian ordered the words entered exactly as spoken. The movement record showed Bram's route had passed the locked needle table before the poison drawer. He should not have crossed that table unless he carried instrument custody from Corbin's inspection or treatment office correction. Neither appeared in the log. The correction board stamp had marked 3 actions that now formed an ugly line. Hold Wraith ledger, reserve inspect silver vent tray, secure needle case for poison review. The last line had been smeared nearly away under ash, but the word needle case remained. Milena felt the room trying to look at her again. She let them. What mattered was whether the record survived being watched. The poison evidence preparation sheet listed the contaminated stitch vial, blackened silver residue, and trace blood reaction. Trace blood reaction. Corbin lifted the sheet. Your missing blood caution needle could explain blood on poison evidence. It could, Milena said. A murmur moved through the captains. It could also explain why the evidence was made more damning after my case left my hands. Dacian's eyes hardened. What does blood caution residue look like under venom test? Like forbidden blood work, if separated from the wound ledger, she said. Like poison, if placed with curse residue in the wrong drawer, Corbin said. You admit the category can incriminate you. I admit categories matter. That has been my only defense. The silver wound thread near her curse depth strip stayed slack. It did not care about missing tools. It did not know who lied. The room had to read what magic could not. The blood caution register was brought forward under red cord. Milena had used that needle only once in royal service. Vea Pass. Dacian Thornmere. No one spoke. The record did not say why the needle had been necessary. The prince's wound file was still partially sealed. It showed only that silver vent treatment had failed near the heart, and Milena Wraith had entered blood caution procedure under emergency survival exception. Corbin looked at Dacian. That procedure was never approved by the surgical council. Milena answered before the prince could. Because the council was not there when his heart began to frost over. Dacian's face went white with memory he had buried under rank. Still no apology. Still no cord. "Open the royal blood exception file," he said. "Only the procedure page." Another smaller answer. The procedure page was unsealed. It showed one blood caution needle, one silver thread, one drop of nurse's blood authorized when royal pulse fell below the living count. Milena closed her eyes for half a breath. The court learned what Dacian's body had remembered before his pride did. She had used her own blood once to keep his curse from reaching his heart. Corbin said softly, "Then her blood on evidence is not impossible." Milena opened her eyes. "No, it is not impossible." And because she refused to lie, the room believed her less safely than before. Then the junior nurse turned the page. The blood caution needle had been sealed after ver pass with a unique red-silver stain that could not be duplicated by fresh blood. A stain found now on the missing needle would not prove who took it, but the poison evidence sheet carried the same phrase, "Red-silver trace present." Dacian looked toward the locked evidence tray. For the first time, suspicion had reached the object used to accuse her, not the woman forbidden to answer it. The locked evidence tray did not defend Milena Wraith. It forced the accusation to explain how her most dangerous tool had touched poison-proof after her hands were no longer allowed near it. Dacian Thornmere ordered the tray brought beneath the witness lamps. Not into Corbin Hask's surgery chamber, not behind campaign curtains. In the Thornmere War Infirmary, where wounded wolves could see the evidence against their nurse. Milena stood with empty hands. Her nurse cord remained on the table. Her ledger remained sealed. Her needle case lay open but not returned, its missing blood caution needle recorded by clerks who still did not let her touch the page. Her standing widened only to evidence tray custody review. She could identify stains, seal wax, thread category, blood caution marks, and preparation timing. She could not resume treatment, reclaim her tools, accuse Corbin, or claim the red-silver trace cleared her name. Corbin made the limit immediate. A trace matching her forbidden procedure may condemn her. Milena looked at the tray. Only if it touched the vial while the tool was still mine to hold. The tray was unsealed. Inside lay the contaminated stitch vial, poison test cloth, one silver thread, 2 labels, and a strip of parchment marked venom suspect. No needle lay inside. The missing blood caution needle had not been found. That mattered. If the needle itself were present, the room could inspect its seal, timing, and stain. Instead, only its red-silver trace appeared on the poison evidence sheet, as if the accusation had borrowed the memory of a tool without producing the tool. The evidence preparation log showed the vial had been assembled at 6th bell. Milena's needle case had been seized before that. Outer seal by Corbin Hask. Inner latch, later found disturbed. No logged inspection. Dacian's eyes moved from the time mark to the open case. "The trace entered evidence after the case was locked," the bone clerk answered carefully. "The preparation time is after seizure, Majesty. The exact moment of trace transfer is not recorded." Milena nodded. "That is the honest answer." Honest uncertainty made fear last longer. The poison test cloth was unfolded next. Its bloom had been read as venom, because blackened curse residue and red-silver bloodwork had been pressed together in the same test square. Under court poison law, that combination required immediate containment, Corbin said, "which is why I removed her." "You removed me before the disposal roll could separate residue from bloodwork," Milena said. "I removed a danger before campaign departure. You removed the person whose ledger could explain why the danger had categories." Dacian did not silence her. Still no apology. Still no cord. The ver pass stain record was placed beside the test cloth. The old blood caution needle had been sealed with red-silver residue from Dacian's emergency survival exception. That stain was permanent, unique to that procedure, and recorded after Milena used 1 drop of her blood to keep frost curse from crossing his heart. The old record did not prove innocence. It proved the blood caution trace on today's evidence could have come from only one known infirmary instrument, Milena's missing needle. Dacian did not touch his scar. His hand stayed flat on the table, as if rank alone kept memory from moving through him. Who had access after seizure? He asked. The needle case custody line named 3 authorities: Royal Surgeon, Treatment Office, Emergency Inspection, Evidence Registra. Corbin said, "My outer seal held." Milena looked at the warmed inner wax. "Your outer seal held the room out. It did not hold the latch closed." The evidence registrar stepped forward. "I received the vial sealed." "From whom?" Dacian asked. The registrar swallowed. "Treatment office runner. Name, unrecorded." The runner wore reserve grey. Reserve grey belonged to half the back corridor during campaign muster. Another door left open. The correction board routing mark appeared on the vial label too. Treatment office night. Correction. The same mark on the emergency key slip. The same mark that moved Bram. The same mark that stripped warning lines from archive shorthand and turned observation wounds into advance readiness. The record still did not name a hand, but repetition had begun to build a shape. Milena saw it and refused to make it stronger than it was. The mark proves one route, not one person. Corbin's eyes flicked toward her. "You are very careful for a woman under accusation. I have watched careless treatment kill men faster than curses." The first soldier breathed easier. The second had stopped coughing frost. The third still waited, sealed, trembling under his bandage. The silver wound thread beside Milena's cursed depth strip remained slack. It did not point to the evidence tray. It did not answer the registrar. It did not know whether a label lied. The room had to read what magic could not. Dacian ordered the evidence registrar's intake roll opened. The contaminated vial had been received 12 breaths before Corbin's 6th bell certification. The full disposal roll reached the evidence desk after certification, not before. The silver wash receipts arrived later still. Corbin had certified from what arrived first. Dacian had judged from what Corbin carried to him first. That did not make Corbin the author of the false chain. It made the false chain powerful enough to move a prince. Milena's voice lowered. A fast accusation is still a procedure. It only looks like truth because it arrives before the slower record. Dacian looked at the third sealed soldier. "Open his wound under witness." Corbin objected at once. "That expands her influence." "No," Dacian said. "It tests the classification before deployment." Another smaller permission. Milena still did not touch the patient. She instructed the nurses through every cut. The third wound was not as deeply sealed as the others. Its curse heat had not reached the lungs. It needed venting, ash brine, and delayed armor seal. Not chains, not suspicion, not green wash. The thread near her strip eased a final inch. Treatment, not allegiance. The war horn sounded beyond the stone walls. The final campaign was calling. Dacian turned toward the captains. "The advance line waits." Corbin's face tightened. "If the line waits too long, the Eastern Wolves die." Milena looked at the 3 soldiers who would have marched sealed shut. "If the line moves with false healing, they die inside their armor." Bramvale stirred behind the apothecary's stare before Dacian could answer. The pulse reader bent close. Bram's voice came like torn cloth. "Reserve grey, not aid." Then his burned fingers opened. In his palm lay a small iron tag from the runner's cloak, stamped with the one office no one had yet opened. Command Physician Station. The iron tag did not make Corbin Haas guilty. It made his station impossible to keep outside the room. Command Physician Station. The words were small, stamped into blackened metal, but every captain in the Thornmere War Infirmary understood what they meant. A reserve grey runner could belong to half the campaign corridors. A command physician tag belonged to the office that stood closest to the prince's war body, royal wounds, deployment orders, and treatment authority. Milena Wraith did not touch the tag. Her nurse cord remained on the table. Her needle case remained open, but unrestored. Her ledger was still sealed. 3 advanced soldiers breathed under witness care, spared from armor for 1 more hour because records had finally been forced to slow down. Wolf Prince Dacian Thornmere opened 1 limited chain. Command Station Runner Registry, Cloak Tag Record, Evidence Run Route, Archive Request Origin, Certification Packet, and Campaign Treatment Schedule. He did not apologize. He did not return her cord. Her standing widened only to Command Station Route Review. She could compare tags, routes, treatment categories, schedule marks, and record timing. She could not resume full patient access, declare Corbin the author, clear Bram Vale, or claim the command station tag alone proved the poison charge false. Corbin stepped forward before anyone else could. My station serves the Prince's campaign. Runners pass through it constantly. No, Milena said. The tag proves only that the evidence runner was not an ordinary aide. The runner registry showed 4 reserve grey cloaks assigned to the command physician corridor that morning. 3 tags were present in the cloak cabinet. 1 was missing. Tag Sphere. The tag in Bram's palm matched it. Assigned route. Command Physician Station to Evidence Desk, then to Royal Reserve Cabinet. Runner name, unentered. Marked urgent. Dacian's voice lowered. No name, again. The registrar bowed his head. Campaign urgency permits cloak assignment by route when staff are rotating between surgical stations. Milena looked at the wounded beds. Urgency has carried every nameless thing in this room. The evidence run route placed the missing cloak at the poison test drawer just before 6th bell. That was when the contaminated vial reached the evidence registrar, 12 breaths before Corbin certified immediate removal. Corbin had not carried the vial himself. His station had carried it. That distinction did not free him. It did not convict him. It placed his authority around the fastest path in the accusation. The archive request origin came next. The request for Dacian's Verpass Frost Curse code had not been filed under General Battlefield Study, as the first roll suggested. The full station copy gave the internal purpose: Royal Grade Silver Vent Standard for Advance Readiness and Dependency Treatment Review. Milena's eyes lifted. Dependency, not healing, not containment. Corbin's face tightened for the first time. Dependency review means follow-up care. Cursed wounds relapse. Then the wound ledger should show relapse, Milena said. The campaign treatment schedule was opened under red cord. 9 soldiers, not all from Milena's shift, had been scheduled for repeated rewash after initial improvement. 3 were the advanced soldiers already under witness lamps. 2 were common infantry. 4 were Royal Wolf Guards. The schedule did not prove they were harmed deliberately. It proved curse-bound wounds had been kept under recurring treatment, even after earlier venting notes said they should have improved. Beside each name stood a station mark. Command Physician, Continuing Care. Dacian stared at the list. Why was this not in the wound ledger? Corbin answered. Continuing care schedules are station records, not nurse ledgers, Milena said. Then nurses were sewing wounds without seeing who had been made dependent on later treatment. A soldier from the common line cried out from the far row. Not one of the 3. Not Royal Advance. A common spear carrier with a thigh wound, sealed clean and polished with fever wash until the skin shone too healthy. Milena turned toward him. A captain blocked her path. She is still under inquiry. The soldier's breath rattled. Dacian looked at the hornmaster waiting at the door. The campaign horn had already sounded once. The eastern line waited. His captains waited. His pride waited for a version of truth that would not slow the war. Milena did not plead for herself. Common line first, she said. Before Royal Guard, before the Prince, before any man whose name makes the record move faster. Corbin's voice sharpened. She is choosing drama. No, Milena said. I am choosing the wound that is failing now. Dacian's old scar pulsed dark beneath his collar, a line of frost trying to remember the same wrong seal. He looked almost ill, but when Milena's gaze caught it, she shook her head once. I will not sew another royal wound while the command physician station controls the records against me. The room went still. That was not refusal, out of spite. It was the only line left to a woman whose hands had been useful only when men could command them. Dacian's face hardened, but not at her. At whose authority will the common man be opened? Corbin demanded. Dacian looked at the captains, the clerks, the wounded, and the sealed ledger that still held Milena's name under suspicion. Under witness emergency, he said. By junior nurses, Milena Wraith will instruct without touching. Another smaller permission. Still not justice, but enough to keep one more man from dying inside a clean bandage. The common soldier's seam was opened. The first breath of black heat came out sharp and bitter, not as severe as the royal advance wounds. Different depth, different category. The thread near Milena's strip tightened, then eased as ash brine touched the edge. Treatment, not allegiance. The command schedule had to be read again because the common soldier's name stood on the dependency review list. His original nurse note said, improving, no rewash needed unless fever returns. The station note said, continue rewash, maintain command supply. Maintain, command, supply. Corbin spoke too quickly. Supply of treatment materials. Milena did not answer him. Dacian did. Open the supply ledger. Corbin's voice dropped. That ledger contains strategic infirmary reserves. Open it. The supply ledger showed ash brine, moon salt, silver wash, green wash, and curse residue reserve. Curse residue reserve should not have existed outside disposal. It was not proof yet, not without source, order, and use. But beneath the reserve column, 3 words had been written beside the 9 dependent soldiers. Controlled exposure dose. The supply ledger made the Thornmere War Infirmary colder than the winter pressing against its stone walls. No one spoke the phrase twice. The bone clerk only placed the open page beside the disposal roll, the wash batch log, the correction board copy, the emergency key record, and the 9 names marked for continuing care. Milena Wraith did not touch the ledger. Her nurse cord still lay on the treatment table. Her needle case remained open but unrestored. Her blood caution needle was still missing. Her name still sat beneath poison inquiry, though every record in the room had begun to bend away from the accusation. Dacian Thornmere opened the final chain. Curse, residue reserve source, controlled exposure authorization, station supply sign-outs, treatment schedule, evidence preparation, and patient authority restoration. He did not begin with apology. Milena would not have trusted it before the record. Corbin Hask's face had lost none of its discipline, but the room no longer mistook discipline for truth. Controlled exposure is an old war practice, he said. Small residue contact can teach a wolf body to resist relapse. Milena looked at the 9 names. Not if the wound was already improving. The residue reserve source was read aloud. Curse-bound silver waste removed from open seams should have gone into ash brine, then moon salt, then sealed destruction. Instead, measured residue portions had been diverted from disposal under command physician station authorization. Purpose: dependency treatment trial for battle. Readiness, stabilization. Corbin's personal handwriting did not mark each vial. His campaign seal approved the protocol. The distinction mattered. It did not prove he touched every wound. It proved his authority made the treatment lawful enough for others to obey. The station supply signouts showed green wash, residue reserve, and silver vent reclassification moving together. When a wound improved, residue exposure kept it reacting. When it reacted, green wash sealed the heat inward. When the soldier worsened, continuing care became necessary, not poison in Milena's stitches. A cycle dressed as treatment. Dacian looked at Corbin. You made them dependent. Corbin's voice stayed controlled. I preserved fighting strength in a campaign that would have collapsed without treated wolves. You preserved authority over wounds you would not let heal. No confession came. None was needed. The treatment schedule answered. 9 soldiers had received residue exposure after improvement notes. 3 advance wounds had been prepared for armor before breath. 1 common spear carrier had nearly choked on a clean bandage. Bram Vale had been moved after handling the reserve transfer and the poison draw route. Bram was not named guilty. He was named witness. The emergency key record was corrected in public. No nameless treatment order could open poison evidence, reserve wash, or disposal routes again. Every curse-bound tray required 2 witnesses, 1 nurse ledger, 1 surgeon ledger, and patient code comparison before rewash. Then the poison accusation was read back. Blackened silver residue. Venom bloom. Trace blood reaction. Milena Wraith source suspected. Beside it, the full chain was placed. Disposal urn broken after her tray closed. Blood caution trace entering evidence after her needle case was seized. Green wash mismatch. Advanced classification altered by treatment office night correction. Royal scar warning lines removed. Command physician station tag on the evidence runner. Controlled exposure dose in the supply ledger. The accusation did not survive the page beside it. Dacian turned to the captains first, not to Milena. Record correction. Milena Wraith did not poison the advance wounds. Her ledger was sealed against her while the records needed to answer were routed around her. The words entered the war roll. Only then did he order her cord brought forward. Not by Corbin. By the common spear carrier she had insisted be treated before prince or guard. The soldier's hands shook as he laid the cord on the table. Dacian looked at Milena. Your nurse cord, needle case access, wound ledger, and patient authority are restored before the war corps. Royal Surgeon Corbin Hask is removed from command treatment authority pending trial for unlawful residue reserve, false category certification, evidence chain breach, and controlled exposure without patient record. Corbin's expression hardened into something close to hatred. Without my methods, your wolves weaken. Milena finally stepped toward the table and took her cord. No, she said. Without your methods, their wounds will have a chance to finish healing. The silver wound threads moved then. Not toward Corbin, not toward Dacian, toward the 9 open records, where each false rewash had been marked as care. They tightened across the pages like thin moonlit seams, matching wound to schedule, residue to wash, tray to patient. They did not accuse. They aligned what men had separated. The infirmary saw the pattern because the records were finally open enough to read it. Milena reclaimed her needle case, but not with triumph. The missing blood caution needle was found in the evidence drawer's lower groove, red silver stain intact, used to make the poison cloth look like forbidden blood work. It entered evidence under witness, not her hand. Then she went to the soldiers. Common line first, advance line second, Royal Guards last. Dacian waited. When his old scar darkened beneath his collar, she did not rush to him. She finished venting Arlen's rib seam, reset the spear carrier's thigh thread, and ordered moon salt for the 2 men whose wounds had been exposed longest. Only after every failing seam breathed did she stand before the prince. He lowered his head, not as lover, not yet, but as ruler before the woman he had wronged in public. I dismissed the woman who kept my frost curse from reaching my heart, he he said. "I punished the discipline that once saved me because a fast accusation served my war better than a slower truth. That fault is mine." The infirmary heard it. The war roll took it. Milena's eyes shone, but her voice stayed steady. "Then protect the authority, not the woman. If my hands can be stripped whenever truth delays a campaign, every soldier here remains at risk." Dacian removed the black command ring from his wounded hand and set it beside her ledger. "No royal wound overrides containment law again. Not mine. Not any prince after me." That was the first thing that sounded like devotion, because it did not ask to be forgiven. Outside, the final campaign horn sounded again. This time, the advance line did not move until Milena marked each wound fit to march. Dacian waited beneath the black wolf banners with his scar uncovered, and his pride finally quieter than the bodies around him. When Milena tied the last silver thread, it did not glow brighter for romance. It simply held, and in Thornmere, after all the blood, suspicion, and false healing, holding was the first honest promise either of them had earned.